One of the standout features of O-gauge trains, especially Lionel, has been the interactive element that these trains typically have over other scales. And I'm talking, of course, about things like operating cars and trackside elements, all these accessories that can either get activated by a remote or by trains simply passing by clever use of that third rail. And I think this is something not only that was done a lot in the post-war era, but something that could be done more, not just with things like Vision Line, but just regular cars. And it'd be really great to be able to use that Bluetooth element, especially with the Base 3 and the Cab 3 app, to be able to activate stuff from here instead of having to roll it onto a piece of track that allows it to activate. It'd be really great to use a remote to activate stuff like this. Oh, would you look at that? Maybe they've already done it. So Lionel accessories have been around for a while. So long so that I'm pretty sure these buttons are old enough to be like my dad, or maybe even my dad's dad. But yeah, so it's been pretty simple, but you've needed to have a cord that's attached to a specialized piece of track in order to activate features built into these cars. These buttons can either activate a strong magnetic wave from here that's able to pull down on things like couplers, or even the middle portion, that little magnet down there underneath this old boxcar here. Or there's also accessory rails on newer ones, like this Western Pacific MTH car that has these cool little spots underneath that allow it to work. But these accessories have one Achilles heel. They rely on A, being stopped in order to work, and B, on this piece of track. So unless this track is all over your layout, you can only activate these cars when they're sitting on top of it. And that kind of limits the fun. Thankfully, if we've modernized things, you can now use controllers to activate accessories. You can press this button and address an accessory, or even like a switch or something like that, and have it controlled remotely. You can also do it from the Cab 3 app if you have a Base 3. But this only works with stuff that's already wired in, and these accessories, like let's say I was able to replace this switch with this accessory button here. I still need this specific track and this one spot for that accessory to ever work. So on the one hand, you have increased the usability of it by offering it through a remote or again through the app. But on the other hand, the accessories themselves are still stuck in the Stone Ages. So over here is part of my main line. There's no accessory spots on here because it's curves. You can see also it would look like this. There would be 5 different tracks on there. But entering from stage left is this K-line. I know I've been talking a lot about K-line recently. Operating boxcar. How on earth does this thing operate as an accessory without being on one of those fancy rails? Well, you're in the future, and you can use a remote that looks like a 1990s cell phone. Letter A, press and hold on 1. Hello, dude. Thanks for the package. This just shot out of that without having to be on an accessory pack. How do they do that? They did it with a remote. Lionel has been using remotes for all sorts of stuff, like, I don't know, engines. And I really think they're missing out, not only because, you know, a simple radio signal from one of these things would be super easy to put inside their cars, but now you've got all this Bluetooth and all this connectivity that you could be making use of, but instead we're still using these. So K-Line doesn't exist anymore because they got in a bunch of legal trouble with Lionel for stealing tech. And ironically enough, Lionel is sitting on this tech that is supposedly stolen and hasn't done a single thing with it, because you can't do this with any Lionel engines. Yeah, you can address some fancy Vision Line things to play some sound effects, but there's nothing really interactive, nothing that loads in or out of those kinds of cars. I would really like to see Lionel make full use of something like this, not just with a radio signal, but you could do it with Bluetooth, because there's so much focus right now on apps and Bluetooth to be able to get the most out of these trains. And the trains do work with that stuff, but their accessory tracks are still relying on stuff from the post-war era. And there's nothing wrong with post-war. I think the spirit of post-war has been captured with this K-Line boxcar. It's just been modernized to look like a cell phone that your dad might have used when he was on a business trip. So I'd really love to see Lionel actually make use of something like this instead of hoarding all of it for the super expensive Vision-Line stuff. These could really bring playability and a lot of fun to these trains. I think part of the problem is Lionel is so focused right now on putting all of their latest interactive tech in the most expensive, most super realistic stuff ever. All of your Vision-Line and Legacy stuff is getting the focus, whereas post-war and semi-scale stuff like this could have a fun playability element to it that's getting skipped. This stuff is in need of a refresh, in need of some more interactive elements. And the technology they're sitting on, thanks to their acquisition of all of the K-Line stuff that they have, is getting wasted. But you don't have to have super realistic stuff in order to have fun with these. I love these operating cars that I've recently gotten from the Rail King line by MTH. This hopper car is really neat, but I've only got the one of them. And I have to use an old Lionel button in order for it to work. I had to install that track just to get it to work in this spot. Whereas a system that would work wirelessly with radio or Bluetooth would make that a lot easier to use and just more fun. There's a lot of potential with wireless control for O-gauge trains, and I really think Lionel could do a better job of integrating stuff like this neat K-Line stuff that I showed you. Big thanks to Dell for getting us these. He was in town and gave these to us. My son loves using this thing already, and he likes it because he can use it anywhere. He doesn't just have to be on that spot in the track. It's a really clever design. I really like using this, and I wish there was more stuff like this out there. So leave a comment down below if you'd like to see more stuff like this produced. Makes no difference to me if it's Lionel or MTH or whoever makes this stuff. It would just be neat to have something that's, got the same spirit as post-war, but has modern technology to make it easier and better to use. The sky's really the limit, but we've put a glass ceiling over ourselves with using the older tech. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think. As always, like, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know, and we'll see you guys on the next one.